Each ecosystem is a fragile web that can be easily unraveled by the introduction of a non-native species. Invasive species often outcompete native flora and fauna, contributing to their significant decline or outright extinction. In the process, invasive species tend to boom in population, put further unsustainable stress on ecosystems by decreasing their carrying capacity, the amount of biomass an ecosystem can sustain. The decline of native species caused by competition and decreased carrying capacity has a cascading effect on other species in the food web. Predators no longer have readily available access to their preferred prey, while other species normally consumed by these displaced species are able to grow and reproduce unchecked. In time, this process can induce an ecosystem collapse, which is not reversible. The Mississippi River Basin is a prime example of an ecosystem ravaged by invasive species, with a particularly destructive group being the Asian carp. Asian carp, commercially referred to as kopi, comprise four species of carp hailing from East Asia, being the silver, bighead, grass, and black carp. Starting in the 1970s, kopies were imported to keep wastewater treatment facilities and aquaculture ponds clean through their consumption of plankton, water weeds, and parasites. Only a few years after their introduction, though, floodwaters would allow them to escape into America's waterways. Over the past few decades, they've rapidly expanded over the entirety of the eastern United States, forming particularly large populations in the Mississippi River Basin, where they've wreaked havoc on its native species. But to understand what makes kopi so destructive, first you must understand their physiology and ecology. Asian carp grow to an average length of 2 to 3 feet and weigh an average between 30 and 40 pounds, though some outstanding individuals can grow upwards of 110 pounds. These estimates are provided by the organization New York Invasive Species Info, NYIS, and from Canada's Invasive Species Centre, ISC. The diet of kopi vary based on species, with the grass carp feeding mainly on aquatic vegetation, the black carp feeding on mollusks, and the silver and bighead carp being filter feeders who consume primarily zooplankton and algae. Collectively, Asian carp manage to consume an average of 5 to 20% of their body weight a day according to NYIS. Meanwhile, data from the ISC shows that some are capable of consuming upwards of 40% of their body weight daily. In feeding, they're also often aggressive, harassing other much smaller native fish for food. They also possess immense reproductive capabilities, having the ability to lay millions of eggs in just a single year. These factors allow Asian carp to easily outcompete native fish, such as ciscos, rainbow smelt, bloaters, and yellow perch, all of which are smaller, less aggressive, consume less food, and spawn at significantly lower rates. The reduction in the numbers of these fish in turn affects the population of their predator species, such as bass, walleye, trout, and pike. While the true size of their population remains unknown, experts like Kayla Zenkel, the Minnesota Department of Natural Resources invasive carp field lead, speculates that there are millions living in the Mississippi River Basin. Concerningly, in some smaller rivers feeding into the Mississippi and Illinois rivers, data from NYIS show kopi make up 95% of those ecosystems' biomass. Their proliferation is also contributing to the decline of their environment's water quality, according to both the Clean Lake Alliance and the U.S. Department of the Interior. While they forage on lake beds, they disturb sediments containing phosphorus, which leads to algae blooms that increase the water's toxicity, which further harms native species. These changes to native ecosystems are also beginning to have negative effects on people too. Algae blooms make America's already polluted waterways even more unsafe to swim and fish in. The decrease in native fish populations also negatively affect hobby and commercial fishermen who catch the species Asian carp have displaced, or the predator species who eat said displaced species. These problems are on track to get worse as the kopi population continues to grow throughout the Mississippi and as they threaten to expand into the Great Lakes. The slow-moving water and moderate temperatures of the Great Lakes would serve as the perfect environment for Asian carp. Their arrival into the Great Lakes would greatly disturb their ecology and, in turn, affect their $7 billion fishing industry, hurting the livelihoods of thousands of fishermen. According to the Great Lake Fishery Commission, currently, bighead and silver carp have established populations 47 miles downstream in the Illinois River, which directly feeds into Lake Michigan. Despite not having established populations further upstream, the carp continue to be found closer to Lake Michigan. An example found in an article by Colin Dwyer for NPR in 2017 recounts the capture of a silver carp in a commercial fishing net in the Chicago River, just 9 miles from Lake Michigan. To prevent such an unmanageable disaster, numerous actions are currently being taken by the federal government and numerous state governments. The federal government has banned the import and internal shipment of all species of Asian carp with H.R. 3049, the Asian Carp Prevention and Control Act. The federal government has also been providing millions of dollars in federal aids to states seeking to implement waterway control measures to prevent the spread of Asian carp. One example is Illinois with its Department of Natural Resources, which, in collaboration with the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, proposed the Brandon Road Interbasin Project in 2020. The controls this project intends to implement include dams, water locks, and electrical, acoustic, and bubble-based deterrent systems. The project was intended to begin construction in 2025, but is currently postponed due to federal funding being frozen by the Trump administration, according to an article by Kate Chappell of NPR Chicago. It should also be noted that numerous other state projects have also been postponed due to this freezing on federal funding. Given the current state of funding for these projects, it's imperative that citizens like you and me take action. You should call and mail your state representatives and demand they fight further against these federal funding freezes. You should tell your friends and family of the dangers of Asian carp expansion and encourage them to tell their loved ones too. You may also attempt to organize your local community in protest against the federal funding freezes, while also educating others on the threats Asian carp pose to ecosystems and human activities. Many state governments, such as Illinois and Indiana, also encourage their residents to go out and fish Asian carp themselves. They are relatively clean fish that have a mild and pleasant flavor, and having caught numerous varieties of Asian carp myself, I can personally confirm these claims. Ultimately, the prevention of the Asian carp spread is vital in protecting the beautiful natural ecosystems of the Mississippi River Basin and the Great Lakes. And in doing so, it will also ensure that their waterways are kept clean and that the livelihoods of fishermen who rely on their native fish species to make a living are preserved. Thank you for watching my video. Pictured here are all the citations and sources I used.